7. I did not get a copy of the minutes. Sean, did we have any minutes that were ready for the?
It should be in your folder behind the.
I don't have a folder.
I don't have a folder.
Oh, yeah, that's not. First meeting without these.
Right.
We'll get to it.
It's okay.
We didn't have finance and in the same folder.
Okay.
So,
Let's see. So, sure, minutes are minimal. Okay. And it's brief. Motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. And that's
I'll second.
all in favor? All right. All right, move on to the draft of the bylaws. I know there were minimal changes. Carl, did you want to walk us through what was edited?
It's 2 minutes, so let me pull it up.
Yeah.
My sister sent it out to y'all for me.
so where you see these minutes?
In your black folder.
You see the agenda for today, the
Finance
finance
committee.
committee, should be right behind that.
Next meeting, when we do an agenda.
Mine says finance, the second page on mine is finance committee.
That's the minutes from our
Yeah,
last.
it was just-
From April 3rd. Okay, got it. It's just in a different form. Okay.
You've got the current version?
I sent it to y'all.
Yeah. Will you print it out?
I've got my notes from last time. New version.
My glasses, so that's happening to me a lot more than I wanted to. All right, so we'll just jump right in. There were, like I said, minimal changes. First thing, just going through it, we left 1 and 2 the same essentially. Article 3, we talked about composition, and that changed. The original composition proposed was like community liaison, we said we needed a better name, director of planning and chief appraiser. We changed that to the member shall fill a term to consist minimum of 3 voting members of the Augusta, Georgia Land Bank Authority Board of Directors. And we didn't name titles. And then the members shall fill a term to consist of 2 years from January to January. Unexpired vacancies may be filled as they arise. There were no changes in that particular section. All right, Article 4, under the duties, we had some questions about ensuring compliance with financial regulations, reviewing audit controls and audit procedures and financial policies, but we worked through it, so nothing changed in that concept there. Under the financial management policy, one of the things that we looked at, I can't get your writing, I'm sorry. I know we had talked about making sure that in the revenue management area. So we identified the checks and balances up in the financial controls and procedures, but under the revenue management, we needed to clean up that language there. And in cleaning that up, it says that we may diversify instead of shall diversify its revenue sources. And then in addition to that, we made sure that it was the board of directors giving this level of direction, not the finance committee. Okay.
Can you jump back real quick to,
Which one?
the first section of the financial management policy?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bullet point added to budgeting and financial planning. Number 4.
Before the final Augusta Commission approved budget will be presented.
Yeah, that was presented to the AGL.
It wasn't in the original.
It wasn't in the
So
original.
the addition is that the final Augusta Commission approved budget will be presented. That was the addition.
Okay.
And you wanted to say, you wanted to say the AGL?
Was that your intent?
No problem saying what I don't know.
Was it, I'm recalling some discussion about whether or not it was presented to us or presented to the full board, and we kind of decided it should go to the full board.
Yeah.
Because that's who's actually approving.
Right.
All right, so to the Augusta Georgia Land Authority. Let's see. Other things we cleaned up.
I didn't recall seeing anything else until Article. Trying to remember. 8 meetings, was that the next section where there's so much to change?
What article are you in?
8?
8. Oh, I wasn't finished with,
Okay, sorry. Jump on it.
I wasn't finished with 5. But on 5, just so you know too, going back to it was just a minor edit. On bullet 1 under 5 financial management policy, budget and financial planning, we said request, we inserted the word request. So prepare a budget request. That wasn't really clear. And then there, on financial controls and procedures under bullet 1, item number 1, we said, thereby creating the checks and balances, and that got added, so you have that. The next thing we did under revenue management, we talked about, the target for revenues and excess expenses, so we inserted that in there. The land bank can diversify its revenue sources to minimize dependency on single source funding, and things of that nature, and enhance financial stability on all target revenues that exceed expenses. So that enhanced portion is new. That language where it enhanced financial stability, and it was to be specified which, for what purpose or how it was going to be done, so target revenues. The next thing is expense management. There were no changes on that one. Financial reporting. We added some language here to say that the annual and quarterly financial reports shall be prepared by staff of the land bank, and the finance committee would also be presenting alongside the land bank staff to the board of directors. And then that's all for this particular section that I have. Did I miss anything?
I'm just looking at this change on revenue management, to make sure it's clear.
Okay.
AGLEA may diversify its revenue sources to minimize dependence on any single funding stream, good, and enhance financial stability on all target revenues.
not looking at the document, so,
Oh, you don't have?
I don't have it.
You need it, don't you?
Well, I gave my copy.
Okay. Well,
Oh, no,
come to
the changes, you don't have the changes. This is the original.
Yeah, this is the one I'm on.
I emailed y'all the changes back in May.
I didn't bring a print copy.
Oh, okay.
We can share. All right, this is this first section.
Starts off with a good. First one to the left. I mean, should we just delete the second part of the sentence?
I think we talked about including something to that effect, but it's just kind of running together.
It's two different statements, right?
Yeah. So, Carl, what I'm kind of thinking is AGLBA may diversify its revenue sources to minimize dependence on any single funding stream and enhance financial stability. Period.
LDA shall target revenue to exceed expenses.
Thanks, sir.
You want the period where?
After stability.
Really?
And then just delete on all of them, fix it with AGLEA shall.
Target.
No, you delete.
Okay.
All right, what's next? Expense management, oh, well, I was done with that section, so y'all have anything in that one?
No.
Anything else? All right, then, going back into, took your notes back. Number
I know you like reading my handwriting.
6 or 7, I figured it out, I was coming back to me slowly.
All right, thanks.
Number 7, duties of the chairperson. Number 3, we changed shall to may. The chairperson, as required, may represent instead of shall represent the finance committee at hearings.
Okay.
Dropping down to the meetings, 3rd paragraph, we changed it to, we had 3 unexcused absences, and I left it at 3, but I see on yours you have 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in a second, so that for yourself.
Yeah. All right, so I don't have anything on conflicts of interest. And I don't have anything on compliance and enforcement or amendments. Or any changes.
Yeah, I did see one change on meetings, which I was cool with.
Okay.
In that 3rd paragraph where it said something about, with the unexcused absences or whatever else, the individual shall not be reappointed, but you added to the finance committee on that.
Yeah, that was what we talked about.
Oh,
I like. You wanna keep it?
Yeah.
That's what we said.
Keep it at that.
Alright, that's it for me.
Okay. Well, mine read it. So I think get that cleaned up
Okay.
and, we'll just look at the emails and, with those changes, I think, submit it to the board.
I think the only thing we're changing is to add 2 edits, West Georgia Land Bank Authority and,
And then
the
the
revenue management, those are the only 2 edits, right? Alright, and then, we'll do an email with edits that will make a recommendation to add it to the land bank, to
other thing, just, John Minton was asking about it.
Yeah.
And just, if he hadn't looked at it yet, just getting his opinion on how it should be incorporated.
Okay.
The one comment he said if you had two different sets of bylaws, you wouldn't want them to be conflicting. So just, should it actually be added as an appendix to the existing bylaws? He didn't have an answer yet.
Okay.
Would just be, maybe we make these changes, send it to him and say, well, what's the best way to organization or incorporate this into the go forward
Okay.
business?
So I make a motion to approve this draft
And forward
have
copy.
4 copies, once edited, to the land bank attorney for future submission
Very efficient.
to the full board.
That's all I got.
Okay. Right, is Bob joining the finance committee or really for the?
I think it's just
Yeah,
early.
it's just.
Okay, all right.
So that was my motion, you second,
Say,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's have it, all right.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes. That was quick, I think, because I've got some more to report on my bylaws.
It would have taken me a while, I would have overdone that. That was really good.
How are you, a policy procedure person?
yep,
Yeah.
when it's convenient.
Chat GPT.
Right.
Hey, don't knock it. Don't knock it.
Okay, so I lost my minutes.
Your agenda.
All right, okay, so next we wanted to review and discuss a potential travel policy and or guideline structure. And I know we have a couple that were provided to us. Brian, you got this from AU.
Good university.
And I got the guidelines from the AEDA. Sean, have you looked at both of those?
I've not seen.
It's been a while, but I sent those back in March.
Okay.
But I can give it to you again. So I guess the first question I had is, I do think there needs to be some either policy or guidelines.
Yeah.
And then in reading the AU policy, I think that's pretty comprehensive, but more reflective of a larger entity.
Yep.
Certainly there's some key points in there I think that can be useful. The development authorities is pretty straightforward. I think it's common sense for a structure that kind of starts or follows that procedure because it provides for a planning process for that portion of the budget. It provides for a way to audit and control what's being expensed and provides 3 sets of eyes. The requester, the approver, the budget team, I guess also they have their accountant look at that information as well. So I thought that policy was a better or structure to start with.
Which one?
The development authority policy. Well, it's not a policy; it's their guidelines. They don't have a policy. And so I thought that was a good, I guess, starting point. And I guess some of the open questions I had were how to approach an approval process, if any, for travel. And I'll mention the policy and procedure that we've got in place for board of assessors. It's closer to, I guess, in a way to the development authority, but when it gets to actually specific approvals for travel, it starts with, for me anyway, as the director, there is a list of pre-approved, known, ongoing annual conferences and meetings that I don't have to get approved for. If there's any out-of-state conferences travel within the state, Georgia or immediate surrounds of South Carolina, I don't have to get any approval. And all of those are with the caveat of if funding is available within the current travel budget. And so, high level, we just have a budget for travel and education, and that's what the budget is. And it's structured really, these are all the things that are allowable within that budget. I don't have to go to the board and ask them for anything. So in-state conferences, required education, things that are furthering the mission of the organization. And if I,
Are there any limits on the cost of the hotel or the amount you can spend in a day, or is alcohol allowable, or anything like that beyond?
so in our policy, it's not defined. It's, so the way we do it currently is whatever the state allowable per diem is for that given city within the state.
Okay, so there is
That amount is given to the traveler.
There are a lot of times where the per diem isn't enough.
And there are,
Okay.
yeah.
Cause like when we go to Atlanta, I can't get $117 room, or I'm not staying there for a hour.
Sure.
So sometimes it's behind the
Needs to be
times, so.
reasonable.
Yeah,
But we still reference it and we put it in there, and then whatever the host hotel is, the host hotel is never really within per diem. So rather than have somebody stay a block, 2, 3, blocks away, we typically let them stay at the host hotel for the event.
Okay.
I mean, the goal is not to make it so cumbersome.
Right.
If they just have a form and they fill out that form and that should be the end.
yeah, we don't necessarily follow for hotels anyway.
Yeah.
The state per diem is 75% to 50% below what the cheapest reasonable hotel is going to be that you would want to stay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so what for the hotel, we try to manage it as best we can.
Sure. As long as there's a way to
What's the
keep it clean and
What's the less expensive but also safest place for them to stay within, the surrounding area, walking distance or drive distance of where the event is. But we don't have a policy on that. It's just kind of common practice. And what we give them a check for is the meals and incidentals.
So when you say given that, and I'm just living in a different world, so that amount is given to the employee regardless of how much they actually spend.
Correct.
Okay. And then it's just up to you, if you want to pack your own lunch or if you want to eat it before seasons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, because sometimes you get there and it's frustrating because they'll say per diem is $27 for dinner, and you're in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
You're just gonna eat for $27, no tip, no nothing. So yeah, so we do the per diem amount per day, and then however they spend it. I don't request my staff to give me receipts because I know they probably ain't. But I don't ever go over. So.
Yeah. And again, these are working within county policy.
Yeah.
The 3 p.m., which you're not currently under.
We still, for this part of the discussion, we still follow that as a policy.
Okay.
So we use state regulated mileage for reimbursement. We use per diem rates when it comes to meals and incidentals. We use per diem rates when it comes to hotel. I think where there may be some question on a travel policy is not employee portion, but maybe expenses on credit card usage when there, if that might be where some of the question is.
Right.
Because when it's travel related to training, you're gonna get, well, that's kind of twofold. So the land bank may cover the hotel, and then the employee is not getting a hotel per diem amount because it was covered, because the host hotel for the conference is more than the amount. And then you just get meals and incidentals. Or if you're paying for your own hotel, then of course you get that as the amount on the front. We still complete a travel advance form for that, requesting that the chairman sign off with all supporting documents. And then when we return, we still complete a travel settlement form, similar to city employees. When it comes to those events where, employees taking a credit card with them and doing something purchase-wise for dinner or something of that nature, I think that may be where you're trying to hone in on,
Right.
as we follow city policy on everything else.
Right. I was gonna, I think, get to that,
Yes,
that point, that the structure that we have and the structure she's discussing is pretty applicable for traveling for education, traveling for conferences. But you also have expenses outside of your own
Yes.
that are engaged in entertainment or in corresponding with potential clients and customers that wouldn't really fall under the typical day-to-day travel of someone just going to a conference.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you go to these things, he's in a different role.
Yeah.
You know, you're courting, you know, potential investors, some people are, everybody's different, but some people expect you to pick up the tab.
Yeah.
You go to dinner, you know, you go to drinks, there's a level of expectation when you're the one courting.
Yeah.
In real life, right?
Right.
So, you know, we have to figure out, I don't think we have an answer for that right now, but I think something does need to be in place to give them some, discretionary spending. 'Cause
Right.
that's what it is, it's discretionary spending. What I do in the event where I have to pick up the tab, because I'm trying to get somebody to come do some work with us, I write the name of the person who I spent my money on,
Right.
turn it in.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, but, because there has to be some discretionary spending that has to take place. We just probably need to do another clause for discretionary spending. But it's not realistic to think we're gonna capture that right now.
Yeah,
No, to me, it's a CYA thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have those, but you need protection that, hey, it was approved, or this is why it was, allowed and stuff. And
So buy 2 drinks,
I mean,
you will not get any single malts.
I'm out.
Cardi is that?
And I think there's some bleed over into the discussion you wanted to have about the internal controls that are, and then some of the recommendations from the accountant, I think would, I think it would capture what we're trying to achieve here, and writing policies that are more to the checks and balances, reconciliation, and approval process of any expense, whether it's entertainment or, getting some pencils. As long as they're all, properly documented in how they're spent and follow the process of our, whatever expenses are on the credit card. Then if we have on this end, if we have a budget for travel and entertainment, and that's your budget, and then we have a policy for how you account for those expenses and improve them, I don't know to what degree we need to nitpick how it's spent when the purpose is for discretionary spending on entertaining potential clients and customers. Because there's no, that I know of, state restriction for you to take someone to dinner.
No, I think that, and not in my opinion at this moment was asked, but from the auditor standpoint, our projection for budget is 100% dependent upon sales. As y'all are aware, City of Augusta only supplies 50% of salary and benefits. Everything else, from pencils to client to rent, is 100% from sales. So it's all projected based on productivity. And it's been 100% in-house because the auditor the auditing company has felt more comfortable looking at how assets have been utilized as opposed to projecting or being a part of projection forward to how they will be utilized. Just because you don't know if you're going to be as productive one year as you were the next. The transition from 19 coming into the role to 20 in COVID was like, okay, our budget went to the toilet. And it was a matter of trying to figure some things out with the city to even reimburse salaries. By 21, we had rectified. So guidance is definitely something that we want to put in policy and make sure that we adhere to. It's just been kind of open, and when we looked at our other authorities in town, there's not been a real parameter set there either, because we don't have a consistent line item to pull from this, and we know this is always going to be there. We don't receive interest on bonds like the EDA. So we don't know if we're going to have $1 million or $2 million. We just know we got $141,000. But anything that gets implemented here and accepted by the board, of course, we'll adhere to and follow.
Sorry, I make a motion, why don't we, either work off of the city policy or the EDA policy and compare the two and just get them written up and kind of like we did on the bylaws, just review it line by line at the next meeting and just kind of get something flowing out there. But I think, yeah, I mean, we're all kind of getting this, there's three buckets, right? There's a budget for it, there's policy and procedure, and then there's a procedure for exceptions. And just get you some rules and whatever. Does that work?
Yeah. You gotta have to make a motion.
I make the motion.
Tell me your motion. Are we recording this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we don't get everything down.
I'm making a motion that we either take the city or tax assessor's policy or the EDA's policy as a starting point.
The EDA.
Okay, let's take the EDA's, compare it to the tax assessors, and just get a draft going for our next meeting that we can go through line by line and talk about any changes that need to be incorporated. But use that to get just a simple document going that'll be the.
And I'll say that ours is a guideline in practice. It's not in writing.
Well then,
So,
let's use the EDA's
The EDA.
and your big brain.
So motion to utilize the EDA guidelines for travel and entertainment and the practices of the tax assessor's office to determine a structure for travel policy for the land bank staff. And the board travels as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That'll work.
Mr. Downs will need a second. And
Second. If that's your motion, I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Lordy. And so on that note, what I can do, before, I'll mention, about to do a vacation. So I'll get something in, just an email form of how we review our travel stuff, you know.
I think it would be fine for you to just comment on it at the next meeting. After we, if
You plan on traveling before you come back?
no, but you will also need to decide as a committee if you're going to have a regularly scheduled meeting based on the holiday, because your meeting date will be July 3rd, holidays will be the 4th, that Thursday, or if you will push that back or cancel a July meeting with the intention of coming back in August. But at a previous meeting, you also set 2 to 3 meetings as your benchmark to then move to every other or once a quarter. So you're at that point for July as well. So based on when you choose to do your next meeting will be your deadline.
And I think the main thing that's gonna drive my thoughts on when to schedule it, or when do you have the budget submission prepared for the county?
So we start as an NGO in late July or the very beginning of August, with documents expected by end of August. And then, of course, we don't hear word until budget is approved by the end of the year.
Because in the bylaw we just did for the
Yes, sir.
committee, we are to review those and send it into the full board. Which you would think we want to do that before you send it into the county. And that's a floating date, but it's usually end of July or early
July,
August.
we'll receive documents from Nancy Heath over
And
Friday.
for submission, I can't remember our deadline typically.
Is
Is yours the
yours?
same as the county departments, or is it like
We are before,
year before?
NGOs are before, we are always last business day of August.
Okay.
All docs are supposed to be
Okay.
signed.
Is it reasonable to look at later in July for this committee meeting again?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm asking you, with the intention of reviewing that budget.
If we have received documents by the date that you set,
Well, receive the documents or not, but, got a.
We have to do a projection of a budget, yes, sir. So the formal documentation to be submitted to the city. Okay, so I'm gonna phrase it as a question. You wanna set your next meeting date for committee as well as set date for review proposal of policy to align with budget coming from staff for the 25 budget.
I think so. I guess what, yeah, I want it. I want us to review the budget.
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't have to be the full
Correct.
package.
Yes, sir.
All right, but we're just looking at numbers.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
What's the projections and revenue? We know what the county is gonna get in.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna change.
Correct.
But we want to be on the record as reviewing the budget with you,
Yes,
making any changes, recommendations that we need to, so that we can get it to the August Board of Directors meeting for approval before submission
Well, you just
to the county, because that's how we set it up in this bylaw.
give us the date and we'll bring you a budget projection.
Okay, well, and I think that is kind of dependent on you letting me know when you can have it.
Yeah, we will have it done when you say you want.
Okay. All right, so
Because you're not requesting documents we would not have, you're just asking for the projection of each line item. So
Correct.
we will, whenever you say this, what I want it.
yeah, I'll need it in the form that the county needs. We just need your working budget that you're gonna have to propose to the county.
Yes, sir.
And I don't certainly want to do that.
We'll make sure to not do that July 3rd.
So, you know, we don't need to make any motions or approvals yet here for the next meeting, but I would concur that would be a tricky day. And we can just start looking at, well, I've got something else coming up. I don't know when that is yet, so I'll know more tomorrow. So we'll start touching base later tomorrow or Friday about
The chairman needs to let us know.
the next meeting.
And honestly, I know we said this, but we're just getting this committee off the ground, but we don't even meet every month.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I mean, cause the way it's written in the bylaw, it's supposed to be once a month with the answer.
Yes.
Why did I change it to bi-monthly, once a quarter?
No, I would
I'm
concur.
just like, you know,
If there's issues to discuss.
yeah, we have a special call meeting clause.
Yeah.
So do y'all have any heartburn with moving it to once a quarter or bi-monthly?
No.
Which one is your preference? After we get through this. Cause technically, we're not official committee.
There's more.
Yeah, we were official.
We're official?
Yeah, we were approved officially as a community change.
Let's go by monthly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's probably more work now as we get up.
If there's nothing that has to be pressure. And a lot of the stuff that we asked for monthly here, financial information that we need to review monthly, a lot of these things we can achieve via email. I do think we'll need to meet prior to the August meeting to discuss the final budget for 25, and get that ratified.
So bi-monthly and not quarterly, cause y'all might have stuff that y'all need.
At this point,
You need a motion or just?
not for
That's
schedule.
just it.
No, not for schedule. We'll just be in touch later in the week on
All these.
when I think that can be, and I'll make sure, we figure that out for July. All right, I think that's good for the travel policy. All right. Where are we now, the auditor?
B, yes, sir.
22, 23, all right, Sean?
Yes, sir. We spoke with Matt Verdery, at Verdery and Associates, who is our auditing company. Stephanie is telling her boss that she will have our 22 audit complete by end of July with an expectation of mid-July. That is not a date. Further conversation with Mr. Verdery, they are getting out of the quasi-government arm audit business. He already does primarily bookkeeping. We're a very unique type of entity. We have some government policy rules while we have private entity auditing standards. And so we have approached them about assisting with bookkeeping because we're going to lose Lisa. and they're interested in picking that up as a tab, but for our 23 audit, they are not going to be doing that. It's officially gonna be done, so we will have to find a new auditing company. We'll get pricing based upon what our needs are from a bookkeeping standpoint and bring that back to you to say if you feel comfortable with Verdery switching over and assisting with the bookkeeping aspect, then they can give a recommendation based on how they keep books on who we can get pricing from for audit, or we can just go out there and do a bare knuckle search to find a new auditing company. So to the agenda item, 22 will be to you by end of July, and we'll be seeking the current auditing company's recommendations as well as your guidance on finding a new company to get 23 complete.
I certainly don't have any recommendations on accounting firms to pursue.
He gave us 3 to start, but those were very dependent pricing wise on them doing the bookkeeping side. He said that there are folks out there now charging $25,000 for an audit. So he's like, here are folks that if we do your bookkeeping, we'll simplify so that they don't have as much to do for you, so that you can get around the same price. If they gotta just start from the previous year audit and start fresh. Right now, getting out of that multi-year, we're about between $3,000 and $4,000. I don't remember the exact amount. I know that that's gonna increase some, 20-25%, but I am not looking forward to having a $10,000 audit based on our budget. I mean, it's just kind of crazy for us. But we don't get to control that.
I think it makes sense to get their recommendations on who, and then we can just comment if we want anybody else to get price. I do think it would be preferable if they completed the 23 audit as well, since we're already into 2024. So, and I think we just get an official document from them. Hey, we're out of that business. We're not doing it if they can't.
Gotcha.
So, just something to that effect. And I don't know how many years have they done the audit.
I got here in 19. At that time, we had not done one since 14.
Did they do the 14?
I had them go back to 2015 and pick up. So City had 14 on record, had not had one for several years. I took the job in 19, backtracked. So they've done from 15 to present.
If they're willing, I think to ask is, hey, you did 7 years of audits. Can you do the 8 since we're already in 2024?
Yeah.
Just say it's preferable for us to be able to say next year's audit versus looking backward. So.
We did beg on the phone, but we will ask.
If they say no, they say no, and we'll have an email or document that says we're not able to do it, but at least we've made the ask.
Yes, sir.
And then I know we're a little short on time. So if it's all right, I'll just skip to the next point. They made these recommendations with the 2021 audit. We don't have to go through each one of them right now, but whether it's now or at our next meeting, would just like to, hear, have these items been addressed? What are the procedures that are in place to address these items? And then I think just again for CYA documentation purposes, your office should just issue a letter back to them in response to these recommendations that just states how they were addressed. And actually put that in the 22. I don't know if since everything was lagged, I don't know if these were done in place for the 2022 year. If it was 2023 when they were addressed, it could just be included in your submission package. And then if anybody said, hey, were these ever addressed, you've got a letter that says, here's how they were addressed, and it's cleared as of that audit.
So respectfully to that, your letter is always to the board since we are your staff. And so I can tell you those items have not been through us directly addressed with the auditor because we are the employees being directed. So the recommendation is always to the board to say, here's what's going on with your organization.
Okay. So, just help me. You're a lot faster than I am.
So when we receive that audit letter,
You've received this letter.
We get that. We get the audit. Audit is turned over to the board through the chairman. It's your entity to run. So through staff, we've never gotten any instruction or formal response to say we read the letter, we're good, or we're not, and we want this changed. So this would be the first year that we would be addressing any auditor concerns in separation of duties, financial audit, any of those aspects.
Okay.
So if it is the desire of the committee to say we want to formally address those in writing moving forward, and you're addressing staff to do that, we can.
All right, well, let me redirect to the chairman. This is not a motion yet, but I think we should consider asking the staff to respond to this letter on whether or not this is currently addressed or what the plan would be to make sure that they're covering the items that were suggested.
I would charge and to his point, I think I would charge the staff to, I think if there's a response letter, it should come from the land bank, rather than the chairman.
Okay.
And the chair and staff would know best how and if any of these recommendations have or have not been addressed. I would think that it would be, it's okay, his question of have any of these issues been directly addressed by staff.
So we meet with Stephanie one-on-one, we receive the audit draft. So before a final is given to us to give to you as the board, we go through line item with her on the concerns that she's had. Most recent was separation of duties, again, these two staff persons. So we sit down and do a one-on-one before she submits her findings. That's not a formal document, that's a conversation. And so then the recommendations are finalized and then put in the audit for the board. And so the board then can say, okay, you've already addressed this with the auditor, but we also want you to do X, Y, Z, Z, Z. But that has not been the case.
Okay. So I think the starting point is coordination with staff in this committee to address any specific recommendations from the internal control letter for recommendations on improving or enhancing based on those recommendations. And I think that's it for now. We'll start there, and then once those have been reviewed, discussed, and addressed, then we can make the request to
Put some document.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Okay. Anything else?
I think the close would just be motion to put this on the next agenda and follow up on,
Next finance committee.
on the communication between finance committee and staff on how to respond.
Motion for that discussion to the next finance committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right. With no other business, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Good afternoon.